Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Scott here. We are going to get started on a printmaking exploration this week. So to start out with, we're going to get a few things ready. Let's make sure that we have our supplies ready to go. You are going to need this piece of foam that was in a supply bag that went home before winter break. You're going to need one of the papers from that same supply bag. You're going to need a dull-ended pencil, so just kind of rub off the end so it's not super sharp. You're going to need a pair of scissors, and and one little scrap page just to practice sketch. That's all you're going to need for this week. Okay, you're going to need a few different things for next week, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So printmaking for us this week is going to be involving this piece of foam, which if you don't have, you could also use a piece of a meat tray that you may get from the grocery store and wash it clean, and then it will work in the same way if you don't have this piece of foam I gave you. We're going to be pressing in a design into our foam and then coloring it with washable markers and printing it onto our white paper. So our goal is to have two different prints, is what I'm deciding from testing this out myself. I think our goal is going to be to have two separate prints. The fun of printmaking to me is being able to make multiple copies. So I don't want you to just be able to make one. And of course you can always make more when we're finished with the project, but for our purposes, two prints is what our goal is. Here are some ideas as far as what subject matter you could choose. You need to choose to draw something that you are familiar with, perhaps maybe something that you have drawn before, something that can be drawn with simple lines, even without needing to look up the details. It needs to be something you know well, because we only get two chances on this foam. We can try on this side, and then if we make a mistake, we can always turn it over and try on the back. But that's all. We don't have an eraser when it comes to foam. So we need to make sure it's a subject that we know well. Here's a few ideas that I thought were simple enough for us to give them a shot. Maybe a dessert. And I like how this has a frame around it with some pattern. That's pretty unique. We could tie into the Valentine's Day holiday and do some type of a heart design. Also simple, but still looks very dynamic with the different colors. We could do a cityscape. Simple shapes, but still has a really great quality once we turn it into a print. We could do, you could design some type of a silly monster as well. And that's a fun subject matter to try. All right, so last time I did this, I did a cupcake. I think this time I'm going to go with the monster for my example. And before we do anything else, we need to get this paper ready. So basically, if you have the one from school, the printing foam will fit onto that page 4 times. So without having to go over rulers and measuring and everything like that, I'm just going to have you line up the rectangle, trace it, line it up again, trace it, line it up below, trace it, and one more time. And I'm just going to have you cut out those 4 pieces. Now you say, why do I need 4 pieces, Mrs. Scott? You said I was only making 2 copies. Well, sometimes we have an oops, or maybe you have so much fun with printmaking that you'll decide you want to go on to make 4 copies. I love printmaking. I love once you get the surface ready, you can make more than one. So I myself get a little bit caught up in it when I get started printmaking, and I just want to do more and more and more. So we're going to get 4 papers that are going to be the same size as our foam ready. All right, and that's really for next week because we're not actually printing today. We're mainly getting ready our design, our drawing. So before anything else, I want you to practice sketching what you think you're going to draw. Okay? So I'm going to use this drawing as inspiration, and I'm going to just create, let's see, what shape? I think I'll do mine with some type of a triangle. And this just relieves any type of mistake I might make by kind of working it out ahead of time. There's always things that maybe you don't realize, or I don't realize before I get started, that I wish I would have done differently. And I'm not going to have an eraser on my print making foam. So I'm just going to practice planning this out. Sorry about the sniffles today, everybody. Oh, now see, I made that a little too thick. I think I want that to be thinner. So just little things that will help us when we go to draw it. Alright, I think I have a pretty good idea what I want to do. I'm going to add some extra texture lines once I draw it on my foam, but this gives me the shape, and now I feel more confident drawing it. So there's my practice. I can set that aside. Now I can go ahead and start drawing on my foam. And once I press into the foam, I cannot undo it. So I want to use slow lines and careful movements as I'm drawing. Sometimes if I make a mistake, I just have to get creative with it and turn it into something different on my printmaking. There are ways that we can plan this out ahead of time, but it takes many more steps. So I think for this exploration, we will be okay to just do it the way I'm explaining this week, practicing first, and then go ahead and do a drawing on our foam. Maybe this arm I'm going to go down. I changed my mind. Mine looks a little bit more like a robot monster, but that's okay. There's not really only one way to have a monster, so that's a great thing about this subject matter, is there's not many wrong ways to do it. Okay, give my monster a little bit of texture. Alright, I'm going to go with this. So here's my monster. And now I'm ready for next week. I'm just going to check and feel along here, make sure that they're all pretty deeply indented. You want to definitely be able to feel where those lines are so that they'll print for you well next week. Alright, so this is step 1. Looking forward to seeing how it turns out.